the first real breakthrough of the Group of Seven summit for Ukraine. The G7 countries and the United States have agreed to issue licenses that will allow not only the production of Western air defense systems in Ukraine, but also long-range weapons, including ballistic missiles. This means that Ukraine will be able to produce on its own territory air defense systems like Patriot and interceptors for those systems, and even missiles for strikes against the Russians, so as not to depend on supplies of these missiles from factories in the US and Europe. If this seems unrealistic to you, here are two facts. Well, first of all, missiles for the Patriot systems have long been produced not only in the US but also in Japan and even in Germany. And the developer of the British Storm Shadow missiles has now pledged to help Ukraine produce cruise missiles capable of reaching Moscow right on Ukrainian territory. Looking ahead, Neptune 2 will be developed jointly with the British. But here the main question arises, when can all this actually start happening? When will Ukraine actually be able to start producing those same interceptor missiles for the Patriot system if it gets the license as soon as tomorrow? That's exactly what we're going to discuss now, in a structured way. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and don't forget to leave your comment under this video. And subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link is in the description of this video. So, the Group of Seven summit really did make a breakthrough decision for Ukraine. The G7 countries and the US have agreed to issue licenses that will allow not only the production of Western air defense systems in Ukraine, but also long-range weapons. That's what this is about. In the joint statement of the G7 leaders, published following the summit in France. So this isn't just some kind of insider information. This is an official statement from all the G7 leaders, including Donald Trump, which is very important. The statement says that the United States and the European members of the G7 plan to organize weapons production in Ukraine under licenses from Western companies. It's not just about air defense systems. Let me remind you, Zelensky requested from Trump a license for Ukraine to produce interceptors for the Patriot air defense system. According to a diplomatic source on the sidelines of the G7 summit in France, Ukraine will also be able to produce long-range strike weapons, in particular long-range missiles. In addition, in a joint statement, the G7 leaders confirmed their intention to increase the supply of air defense systems, such as Patriot, IRIS-T, NASAMS, and so on. This includes interceptor missiles for them, for example, PAC-3, along with long-range strike weapons, that is, long-range missiles and other weapons to protect Ukraine. And here, credit should be given to the Europeans. I think they've made a real quantum leap in this matter. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said that the Europeans will be the first to give their licenses to the Ukrainians to show the Americans, look, we're taking the initiative ourselves. And if the Americans are still hesitant, it was stated that American companies will be able to transfer the relevant licenses to European manufacturers, and they will then organize production in Ukraine. So, Ukraine will be producing American weapons, but with European guarantees. And today, Trump has already stated that yes, we will consider such a scheme, and as for us supplying missiles directly, by the way, this is no longer under the Purell program, Trump said that they are ready to directly provide Ukraine with long-range missiles, plus transfer licenses for the production of interceptor missiles for the system.
На производство ракет-перехватчиков для системы Patriot.
According to Merz, the current volume of weapons production is insufficient, so licensing will help to increase the output of the necessary products more quickly. And the start of Ukraine's production of Western weapons for its own needs is actually the perfect solution, and Trump agreed to this. Let me remind you, in case you lost track, that at the G7 summit, partners discussed boosting Ukraine's air defense and supporting its own defense production.
Производство оружия.
Among the priorities, the development of Ukraine's long-range capabilities was also mentioned, and Zelensky said that the main issue in negotiations with Trump was precisely the license to produce Patriot interceptor missiles. And let me remind you that after more than an hour of negotiations on this topic, the teams of Trump and Zelensky went to work out the details and met again today. This shows that this process was not just talk, but actually a substantive discussion. As a result, we received a joint statement from the G7 leaders in which this is now officially stated. I should note here that today, in addition to the United States itself, Patriot missiles are also produced in Japan, and the leader of Japan was also present at the negotiations in France. In addition, this year, such production is starting in Germany. And now Merz says directly, listen, Germany has already received a license to produce Patriot missiles, so why not launch the production of these missiles in Ukraine? And it seems that Trump liked this idea. The idea is, let's just put it simply. The idea is that Ukraine needs these missiles, but there aren't enough of them in the world. Well, there really aren't enough, so why not give Ukraine a license so it can produce these missiles itself? But it's important to be realistic here, of course. And military experts, answering the question of how quickly Ukraine could start such production if it received a license from the US, say that this is a debatable issue. Because it took Germany about 5 years to set up such production, but you shouldn't be alarmed by this 5-year figure. The thing is, in Germany, most of this period, most of those 5 years, was actually spent on signing preliminary agreements to purchase these missiles in the future. So, not on the actual start of production, but specifically on contracts. Well, simply put, you wouldn't build a factory if no one was going to order its products. So, for a long time there were negotiations, contract signings, and so on. At the start of this year, a major order for about 1,000 missiles came in from Germany, and they said, great, production is starting. So they finally started production when they got this order for 1,000 missiles. In Ukraine, as you understand, the armed forces of Ukraine have already placed an order. The missiles were needed yesterday. So the process will be fast, but definitely not take years. Meanwhile, there's a race to be the first to enter the Ukrainian market with licenses. The European missile company MBDA signed a memorandum today with the Ukrainian design bureau Luch to expand cooperation in the field of long-range strike systems. MBDA is considered the largest and most well-known European manufacturer of missile weapons. And among its most advanced developments are the Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles. Ukraine actively uses them to strike Russian military targets, and the agreement provides for the development of the Ukrainian Neptune cruise missile to create a long-range strike system called Neptune II based on it. Basically, the company that manufactures Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles is offering its expertise to help create a Ukrainian equivalent based on existing Ukrainian developments. And here I should note that the State Design Bureau Luch is modernizing the cruise missiles of the Neptune system, and the range of the latest modifications of the Neptune already reaches 1,000 kilometers. Together with the Europeans, as you can imagine, even greater distances can be achieved. And importantly, no one will control where such a missile can or cannot be used. That means it will be possible to strike anywhere in Russia, and no Western partners will restrict us in this. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. There you'll find Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, even crypto wallets, bank details, and YouTube sponsorship. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I'll be grateful for any support you give. That's all for now. Take care. Bye everyone.